I'm gonna do another little sound check. Can you watch my computer to make sure they're saying yes? Hi there, everybody. My name is Jay Ponteri, and I am the director of PNCA's Low Residency Creative Writing Program. It is day 10 of our residency, and we have a very special reading tonight. It is our reading of guest artists. We have Jake Skeets and Sara Sutter reading this evening. Sarah will be reading in person and Jake will be reading on Zoom. It is my pleasure and honor to introduce MFA Low Residency Creative Writing candidate Diana Oropeza, who will do introductions.
Thanks. Reading first tonight, we have Sara Sutter. Sarah Jeanette Sutter is a writer, educator, student, and psychonaut based in Portland, Oregon. Sarah holds a BA in philosophy, an MFA in poetry and creative nonfiction, and is now in their second year at California Institute of Integral Studies, where they are focusing on somatic and psychedelic assisted therapy. Sarah teaches literature and creative writing at University of Portland, Pacific Northwest College of Art, Willamette University, and virtually at Harrisburg Area Community College. While Sarah's most recent writings have been towards fulfilling academic requirements, published works appear in Fence, the Seattle Review, Nailed Magazine, and others, along with her chapbooks, Ode to be a Dragon and Siren Amelia. Sarah is slowly at work on a new hybrid project that explores the generative and spiritual qualities of trauma. Please welcome Sara Sutter. Thank you so much. Hi, everybody. I'm so happy to be here. This week has been so beautiful. Just feeling really nourished from the work that I got to do with all of you, and it's so great to see all your faces again. I'm going to share a piece I'm working on that speaks to the talk that Jay and I did yesterday with bioeconomology's theories on trauma, specifically how he talks about the wound as a site for generativity. He calls it one replete with life. So I bring his theories to my own experience over the years of learning to sit with my wounds and rather than avoiding them or trying to erase them, but hearing the wisdom in them and the songs that they have to sing. So this is my work in progress toward that. And the piece has footnotes throughout, but you can't see those, so I'll just name those guest speakers. Audre Lorde, Dylan Thomas, James Taylor, Marie Howe, Mary Oliver, Nicole Steele, Octavia Butler. And the piece is called An Ode to Unwinding. The wound wonders where you went. The wound says change is just becoming more of who you already are. The wound says, just in case you thought you weren't here with the rest of us. The wound says, pardon me. The wound is the blue translucent body of the Portuguese man of war, dotting the beach like a colonial architecture. The wound is me making a simile of nature and colonization. The wound says you want to love your parents more than you let yourself. The wound tidies the self into a concept. The wound is a remnant tableau, toothbrush, lid, laminated photo of a mother with her kids, a wing bone. The wound says the more we know, the less we feel, and the less we feel, the less we feel each other. which is more of life we lose. The wound is an exchange rate. The wound asks if you've forgotten that you are a soul having a human experience. The wound asks what you're forgetting is. The wound is sky glow. The wound says rest in the power of the unexpressed. The wound sings the songs of the unseen. The wound is snail mail. The wound says we are never not in relationship. The wound says breaking is deeper opening. The wound says age is a growth ring. The wound is the life-ripened sweetness of grandparents. The wound says listen for your grandfather's laughter flaps across the cloudless sky. The wound says the fracture of home is an act of trust. The wound says I owe it to my white Christian ancestors to offend them. The wound is diving and writing on my island, where I find out my long-lost paternal grandfather did the same on his island. The wound is ancestral pain repeating into self-awareness. The wound says repatterning is reparenting. The wound is the intersection of colonized and colonizer in a body. The wound is the inheritance of shame and propulsion to change in a body. The wound is history held in one hand, the other always reaching toward unlearning. The wound says you might consider sharing the shine of the psychic riches you've excavated, rather than shaming those who forget they have them too. The wound says not belonging has become a way to belong. The wound says you've come a long way, but you will never not belong to these people. The wound is the kerning. The wound says if the outcome is the process and the process is the outcome, then every moment is a plot twist. The wound says the heart gives the best ETA. The wound is jet lagging. The wound says it sucks to be parentified. The wound asks what you believe you are doing. The wound says you deserve friends who know how to listen deeply. The wound says you deserve to practice listening deeply. The wound says you won't hear those closest to you until you finally hear the wound. The wound is the paper she pressed her long-lost father's face into and mailed to her long-lost niece before she made herself again long-lost. The wound says the island's orchards will swell with berries that'll fill your buckets and you'll witness an earthly abundance that renews your faith and pleasure. The wound is a spiritual emergency. The wound replays your childhood, so all relationships are emotionally formulaically the same. And if you can't disentangle this, you might find yourself many times walking away from a figure 8 karmic knot, never truly knowing anyone. The wound says we always want repair, even as our attempts repeat the wound over and over and over, bringing us to the doorstep of a different outcome. The wound says you too will be subject to the irony and blessed tragedy of working through those messiest, most tender psychic knots with the people you most want to impress. The wound says choose your own adventure. The wound says it's high time you buy yourself a fresh supply of vibrant and tactful socks. The wound says nothing is understandable. The wound asks if the truest way to be with anyone is to show them how you've hurt. The wound says grief is an invitation to kneel at the altar of your humanity with the other struggling radiant beings around you. The wound says ecstasy is also trauma. The wound is a bomb cyclone. The wound asks if anything is not the wound. The wound says rage, rage against the dying of the light. The wound says the anger you wield is more like wind than something to call yours. The wound demands accountability as well as student loan forgiveness. The wound is the red tide turning like the planet shedding its lining in this infertile moment. The wound is a secret Santa. The wound says apocalypse is an impetus toward life. The wound says you are not capitalism, but you are also not nature. The wound says, please at least soak the dishes overnight if you're not going to wash them right away. The wound says, unfortunately, many allopathic doctors lack empathy, so try your best to have a supportive alternative healing community to counteract the alienating experience of healthcare in this country. The wound says there's medicine in the sickness. The wound says all the medicine is already in us. The wound says if you were a vacuum, you'd be a Dyson 6.0. The wound says the people most precious for you will go. The wound says fear of abandonment is also the courage to love in the face of death. The wound says you don't have to be good, you just have to let the soft animal of your body love what it loves. The wound says, I will die from being loved like this. The wound asks, what makes for a good death? The wound says, the spirit realm is so much closer than we think. The wound is becoming the dream of your parents that they most longed for and most feared. The wound says, listen to Octavia Butler when she said God has changed. So when our relationships shift, we understand it as a chance to engage with the divine. The wound says you're still waiting. The wound says there's still time. Thank you all so much.
That was amazing.
Can't wait to hear Jimmy. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sarah. Up next, we have Jake Skeets reading on Zoom. Jake Skeets is the author of Eyes Bottled Dark with a Mouth Full of Flowers, winner of the National Poetry Series, Kate Tufts Discovery Award, American Book Award, and Whiting Award. He is from the Navajo Nation and teaches at the University of Oklahoma. Please welcome Jake Skeets.
Hi. Thank you for the introduction. Hi, everybody. Yad A. Please allow me just to briefly introduce myself in Dene. Yad A, Shea, Matthew Jake Skeets and Inche. Sinajin the Shlan, Tkobahan Bashes Chin, Skachni Dasha Chedo, Twitter Dasha Noah. Hi, everybody. My introduction roughly translates into, hi, I'm Jake. Dene, and I come from the Navajo Nation, from a small unincorporated town called Banduagan, New Mexico, though it's been called a lot of different things over the years. No one seems to have a true understanding of what it's called in English, but in Dene it has many names. One of them being my home, where I come from and where I grew up. Thank you all so much for being here, and thank you to the PNCA, the Residency program, for inviting me. It's been really great couple of days going over some poetry and some really complex thoughts that I've been having about writing over the past few months, maybe even the past few years. And yeah, and it was a really great sort of session. I learned a lot. Hopefully the participants learned a lot as well, and they can take with them what they can to sort of, move into the writing process and writing practice. So I'm going to read, first I'm going to start from a new book of prose. I don't know what to call it yet. I don't know if it's prose, I don't know if it's memoir, I don't know if it's an essay or a collection of essays. In the past, I said just a general collection of essays. But we'll see. We'll see what it turns into. So I'm gonna start with that, and then I'll move into some poems. The memory field. Ga, gi, ga, gi, ga, gi, ga, gi. We roared through the night, the sound of something alive. There's a photo of me and my brothers covered in ash. When you become of age, you go through a ceremony meant to teach you how to exist in the world, how to be a relative, how to be kind, and how to care. In the ceremony, you are often covered in elements from the earth. It is a time of introduction, in a way, an introduction to the world. You enter it covered with the earth. However, as boys, we didn't receive those ceremonies. We were left unintroduced. But in our deviance and debauchery, we still found a way to learn something of the earth beneath us. We learned that ash on skin could be an escape. We were just boys then, and as if by instinct, we learned how to exist. We introduced ourselves. It started with the land around us, the land we watch, the land we catch a glimpse of through open windows, the fields and open fields. This is not a memoir, it's a memory. Memory is a touchy thing. Memory is land, memory is time, our own geologic, cosmic. Memory is language. Memory is a loom, a warp, a pattern, a structure. We drive past restaurants and we suddenly remember that one time that thing happened. We notice a scar on our bodies and we suddenly remember again. The experience gave us the scar, and then we wash it in language. Memory is woven in a unique matrix of land, language, and time, which I call the memory field. The memory field is a constellation of ourselves and the deepest parts of a collective personhood. And through the field, we imagine our deepest potential, our most radiant futures, because the land becomes part of our being, an act of memory, an act of ourselves, a matter of language. Accessing the field is an act of radical remembering, where in that singular moment, time is erased because memory stops time. Memory enfolds time. We are past, present, and future, collapsed in on itself like a hand held in another hand. Welcome to the map of our faces. Such stunning architecture, it's best to take the high ground. The worst thing about sandstone, how easy it erodes. We need maps in our lives. We need patterns. We need familiarity. We need the things to repeat so as to know when things do not. It starts with the warp, the pattern, the structure that will hold us in place. We can think of gravity, magnetic fields, gases, pressures, winds as the warp to our world, the pattern, the structure that holds us in place. There are small moments where we encounter this warp, and these are the moments that inspire me the most. The reminder of energies, the reminder that we belong to a system, to a machination of small miracles. It is said we traveled by rainbow. You don't need to know who, to where, from where, how, or for what reason. Trust in the miracle, trust in the memory, the story, trust what you see in front of you, a rainbow, a small miracle. So that's the prose. That's the essay book thing that's happening. And I'm going to transition to some poems. And these poems are all new work. I've retired reading from Eyes Bottled Dark for the moment, for the time being, because I really wanted to focus on new work. And every time I read from Eyes Bottled Dark, it kept just bringing it back up, and I kept just sort of thinking about it and thinking more about it. So I sort of just stopped. I just decided I was going to stop reading from it for a while. So if you want to hear poems from Eyes Bottled Dark, there's plenty on YouTube of me reading from it. So this is all just new poetry. He said my name. He said my name is really a kiln, a hall of groundwater, because a mouth can open into hot vapor. He said my name is actually a riverbed. He said to make of my name a choking of cracked ice. He said to say my name is old water in a ditch. He said to make of my name a peach tree on fire, a palm of pollen. He said my name is really an aquifer, an aster field, an orchestra of damp tarps in a sheep corral, a downed pole in Rock Springs. He said my name is as tall as a smokestack. He said my name has a tendency to cause a draft, to be a touch of tequila. He said my name is really splintered reed, heavy blue mornings in June. He said to make of my name wildfire smoke. He said to say my name is a rumor, the low beams of a pickup. He said my name is really a sermon of locusts, boulder rust in a river gorge. He said to make of my name a desert garden. He said my name is the one pink evening when you whisper your name to the moon and it whispers back a monsoon. This one is a prose poem and it's called From Autumn. I wonder the language of light on a morning walk in what feels like a desert willow of winter. Ash, flow, bellow tough, velvet mesquites, the mountain in the distance, the color of the world. Wind in the language of sky, heard through sentences, through tumbleweeds. What is water if not the sky looking at itself? A warbler sees itself in me, in my throat, or am I just a trick of light, ran rampant through a whisper of river, something made alive by voice? But what is voice if not wind? A low lake, collide, joy, wit, wing, joy, another long morning. And now let me explain in Navajo. The moon is a penny. I carry with me an empty notebook meant for the coming clouds. The pages held between the breaths of the silver I feel choked and collapsed when I walk on damp wood chips and frozen mud. I walk between two houses in favor of the other. And by the time I reach one, it's near noon. And there's a rabbit cloaked in sawdust, murmuring through a snowy field. Not a bird in the sky, only the face of memory, all the colors of every single morning. And this one's called Sky. Sky, pronounced like old stars. Noun. 1, a first start too old. 2, Debris disks, 3. Emissions shifted, therefore their light. Space is a curved mirror, and at any given time, the field of regard, the field of all sky, over a 6-month period, the field of carbon dioxide snow. Promise, pronounced like the gesture of a stone up a gentle slope. Verb, as in one long body wrapped around a map, a gallery of altitudes scattered within a degree of the North Pole, within any field shifted, a field of too much light. And this one is called Anthropocene, a Dictionary. It includes some Diné words and some loose translations of it. Anthropocene, a dictionary. The Begun, sheep corral. Juniper beams caught charcoal in the late summer morning. Night still pulled in hoof prints. Deer, panicked, run from water. Olje bina adinadine, moonlight. Perched above the town, drowned in orange and street lamp, the road back home dips with the earth, shines black in the sirens. Bit its sails or its wings. Driving through the mountain pass, Doli, mountain bluebird swings out from swollen branches. I never see those anymore, someone says. Dios, wind, wind, more of it, more wind, as in to come up. Plastic bags, driftwood defense line. Nihitsui, evening. Somewhere northward, fire twists around the shrublands, sky dipped in smoke. Twilight. There is a word for this, someone says. They deethled, they burned it. Kotelia, we did this. Sorry, it's hard to scroll through a Word document trying to find the poem. Codex for being alive. Slipped through the lowland of a silvered night. I begged to keep just a piece of him. Begged to the shallow, to the memory of soils. Houses turned over into caverns beneath the highway. This is us when stretched across moss. 2 rivers, 2 rivers, 2 rivers kissed. We are the pump and steam sometimes. I carry north horses named Weather, beg to rock doves to the chorus frogs we hear. The mountain bearings are never enough though. This baptism is what the church came for. A snow squall, the cottonwoods, minnow white. And this one is called A Man Called After Dark. And it's a poem in 3 parts. 1. He crosses nights, a field of wild antenna, fireweed and shad scale, calling me through television static. His name is After Dark. He calls to me with the sounds of wet alligator juniper, tells me my name with the beak break of a crow cocking its head to the south. The dirt beneath has teeth. long lead plants and salt bush, circuits of roots and stem gnarled from the mouth. 2. The man has mercury in his name, his head sky thick, not yet cloud nor rain. His skull is a shelf for white candles, an unlocked gun box, a half-full fifth of dark matter, a late evening gnat sung sweet as dark soil and wolftail. His frame mountaintops the meadow sleepgrass as he carries into his pit the smoke of belt burn and nectarines and me, as in I will learn to love him, so erosive it eats through the canyon like pink water. 3. The field stands taller when he turns key to engine, and he tells me he dances too many sorrows out the open windows of train cars. Jackrabbits, ash and mottle at the hem sown with a sunken back road of flesh and hill slope. He drives off, dusts the horizon as if chancel, as if sunrise, as if all of it, all its beauty. And I'll just read a few more for you. So this poem is called Aperture, and it includes some of the Navajo code that the Diné code talkers created during World War II. It was a really interesting code where they took Diné words that would stand in place for the alphabet, and then they would spell out individual words using those Diné words. So it was very almost like a poetic form, right? So, for example, if they wanted to spell out the word body, they would use the Diné word for bear, then the Diné word for oil, and then the word for deer, then the word for yucca. So each first letter was what corresponded into the overall word. And I thought that was really interesting to sort of see that, because when students translated these ordinary things that they used, they of course had other translations for things like a tank, right? They didn't spell out tank, they just called it a turtle. Or for like missile strikes, when they would drop different things, they called those chicken hawks, because back home, the hawks, they would come down, they would pick up prey, and you would literally hear it, like you can hear like when their wings slap open right when they're near the ground. So I thought that was really interesting to sort of see this language of like beauty and balance being used for something like war. And then of course the CIA released the whole code, and you're able to sort of play around with it. And they have like different exercises for kids, like figure out if you can find out what this means. And that's what I used to create these, because I thought it was just so interesting to see that, sort of see it all on a website so nonchalantly. This sort of history of like so much violence. So this one's called Aperture. 1. Bear, oil, deer, yucca. 2. The code for man includes match or mirror, axe and needle. He mines beryl, he mines ore and limb, arsenic in the pelvis, fracks the shale rock and rib and femur. Beauty mark or mole pocked on his skin, nosebleed and dirty snow, sun-grazed tar sands, ant-lined deer bone or chokecherry, his body a hay shed or sky stoned in firestorm. Kneeling into a valley garden of cattle and cordgrass, or a tree hollow ached with worms, not bullets, hunger, not song. 3. Apple, pretty, elk, ram, tooth, uncle, rabbit, eye. 4. He asks to condemn time before its gospel compels grasses to ash to dust. Cold boot boulders breathe beneath a wandering myth river, a river stealing the sediment from words rigged at the wrist. He demands to blink open the cloud in every letter, and again they turn into his lips on his. Inside him, his language moans open, rip gut and copper zipped into a key. This is not the first time you will bloom before a man like him. This is not the first time you will bloom before a man like him. This is not the first time you will bloom before a man like him. This is not the first time you will bloom before a man like him. His head in closet lights and apartment parking lots, morning after morning, each one he meets at night to deliver a prayer he cannot tongue. He feels the reach of his name strung for a hailstorm. Columns of cloud howl in the east. He leaks onto the bedsheet in slow river, yellow metal in the current. All right, so I'll read 3 short ones for you, then I'll go ahead and end. Again, thank you so much for having me. It's been such an honor. So these 3 short poems are semi-prosaic. This first one's called America. My mom and aunt sing along to Waylon Jennings, making tortillas in the kitchen. They say they never really went to school because boarding school never counts. They say, drain the sink water, demand I open a window. They say they don't know how to dance, asking how to pronounce oppressed. The dough hangs from their hands crusted with flour. Starlight, cracked bushes, yucca bloom, mudstone, fox sparrows, night storms drowned out by frogs and song, view, hum, bellow, molt, hush, coo. Opening light. Gravity is God, deep felt, but impossible to see. What might be true? What joy? 2 birds rigged to cloud, lake shimmer, wind kept in dust fog. There are monsters sometimes still deep inside people. Opening light, thundering through. Say this is a step into silence toward beauty and everlasting. The air the color of canyon peach. A rainlit morning in open field. And the last poem I'm going to read is is dedicated to Joy Harjo, my literary auntie. She was like the first sort of person who was behind my back when I first started writing poetry. So this, I take some language from one of her iconic poems, and I dedicate it to sort of her. The morning ends after Joy Harjo. The morning ends, and I release you. The distance between us sung from pole to lung, forelock to mulch, syllable to wither, peak to mane, its snow gathered into ice. I release you, the morning cessation or half-life tamped to sod, molded into a specter of horse, shrubland, twig beetle, scrub jay, deer on the roadway, evening red light, my heart, my heart, my heart, my heart, my heart, my. Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Okay, let's give another round of applause for both of our readers. And thank you both, Jake and Sarah, for teaching really amazing classes for us. Tomorrow, at 12 Pacific Standard Time, we are having an event called, Woman, Life, Freedom, Revolution in Iran. And it's going to be facilitated by our beloved faculty member, Pupe Masagi, and guest artist Molly Hosmer Dillard. We're going to be doing a conversation, a collaborative reading, and a community art practice. And especially for you low residency creative writing students, I'm going to be sending out a sign-up sheet for the collaborative reading that has a lot of good options for you all to choose from, Persian texts that are in English translation. So I hope you will do that. Anyway, thank you all. We're closing up the winter residency. Thank you.
Good to see you.